Hi, I'm Guy from Scoop. Ubiquiti's Trivial File Transfer Protocol, or TFTP, recovery method is how we recover firmware on Ubiquiti devices. This method is useful when there's an unstable device connection or when the device cannot be accessed. These difficulties are typically owing to some form of firmware corruption. Firmware corruption could be the result of a number of reasons, but the most common is by electrostatic discharge. And ESD often occurs when using unshielded cables and connectors. Fortunately, Ubiquiti's TFTP recovery method works on most Ubiquiti devices. In this video, we'll explain how to perform the recovery. If you'd like to use a third-party client, we'll show you that first. If you'd like to use the built-in TFTP function of your OS, check the video description for the timestamp and just jump to the section labeled Windows, Mac, or Linux. Before attempting the recovery, we need to ensure some things are prepped. Download a TFTP client such as TFTPD32 or TFTPD64, which is the 64-bit version and a more recent update. Next, download the Ubiquiti firmware related to the device you're recovering. You can find it in the download section of Ubiquiti's website. See the link below. Also, download the app Wi-Fi Man to see what the IP of the device is and ensure that your PC is within the same range. Lastly, have a paperclip or similar object on hand to press the reset button of the device. Right, let's start the process. First, we'll put our device into recovery mode. Hold the reset button on your device while powering it up. Now, the reality of Ubiquiti is that different product ranges behave differently with their LED status. So we're showing you using a power beam and a Wi-Fi access point. You might even find that the hold time varies, depending on which device you're working with, but this is typically between 20 to 30 seconds. On the power beam, you'll see the LEDs light up and flash 3 times before entering a sequence of 2 LEDs flashing. On the Wi-Fi access point, the sequence cycles through white, blue, off. The device is now ready to accept new firmware. Now, let's start a continuous ping to the device using command prompt in Windows or terminal in Mac and Linux. Launch TFTPD32 or 64. Select the TFTP client tab. In host, input the Ubiquiti device IP. Port must be set to 69. In the local file section, click the 3 dots button on the right and navigate to the firmware file that you downloaded. Click the Put button to start the transfer. If the correct firmware was used, you'll see the client report that the transfer was successful. This should fix any software-related issues that might be plaguing the device. You may even be able to recover the device that was previously inaccessible via Ethernet. But what if you've chosen to do the TFTP without a third-party client? No problem. Let's walk through the different methods for each OS, starting with Windows. Please note that enabling the client poses a security risk, since TFTP does not authenticate connections between the server and client. Windows recommends disabling the option once the transfer has been completed to ensure device security. First, you need to enable the TFTP client. To do so, open the search and type in Windows Features. The first option available should be Turn Windows Features on or off. Click that option, then navigate to TFTP client and enable it. Now we can use the TFTP command in command prompt. Open the command prompt and navigate to the firmware location by changing the directory using the cd command. Now the system will action commands from this directory. This is important since the command we type next looks at the current directory for the file to be transferred. Since we're sending a file to the device, we'll use the put parameter. The file you transfer is a binary or .bin file, so we must include the binary -i parameter. Owing to transferring the file directly to the device and not to a subfolder, you can ignore the destination parameter. TFTP-i, followed by the IP of your device, put, and then the firmware file name. Your command should look similar to ours. If the file transfer is successful, the data transfer rate and time taken will be displayed. You've now done a TFTP via command prompt. Nice. Next, we'll do the same, but on a Mac. Once the terminal is open, you need to change the directory to the folder where the new firmware is located. For us, it's in our download folder. So we type the following: cd space downloads, then enter. Next, type the TFTP command, TFTP followed by the IP of your device, and enter. Now we need to type binary to ensure that it knows we're transferring a binary file. Lastly, we type the following to start the transfer: put followed by the firmware file name, then enter. It should specify the amount of data transferred and the time it took for the transfer to be successful. You've now done a TFTP firmware flash via terminal. Next, let's take a look at how it's done on Linux. On our Linux installation, the TFTP function had to be installed before it could be used. To do so, run the following command in the terminal. We've already installed the feature on our device, so we won't repeat this now. Once installed, you can run the TFTP command. With the firmware downloaded and present in the Downloads folder, you need to change the directory to the Downloads folder. Type the following: cd followed by downloads and /, then press enter. To begin the TFTP, input TFTP followed by the IP of the device to link to the unit. Then input binary to let it know you're sending a binary file. You can use the trace command to see the files being transferred, but it isn't necessary. Follow this with put and the firmware file name to start the transfer. With trace on, you would see tons of lines being produced indicating the file transfer. Without trace enabled, nothing would happen on the screen and a new line would just pop up. This means the transfer was a success. You've now completed a TFTP firmware flash with the native tools on Linux. No matter which method you choose, we hope this guide has helped you recover some devices. Please give the video a like to support our channel and subscribe if you'd like to see more. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Guy from Scoop.